thank you for staying. I mean, it's the last session, but I think they have a wonderful party afterwards, so good choice. And also for the session, obviously. I'm Sandra Ahlgrimm. You can find me on Twitter at @screamhit or also on LinkedIn, which is my name. Also on GitHub, it's just my name, Sandra Ahlgrimm. I'm here to talk about a topic which is really important to me per se. So I'm organizing the JAC in Berlin, Brandenburg, Germany, and I'm also organizing the Docker meetup. So I'm I like to do it all, do the Java programming, do the Android app, set up the, containerize everything, set up the clusters, deploy it. So maybe I'm a control freak, and I also like to have it at least as sustainable as possible, and so I'm very happy that the whole thing is super green here, so it fits well for me. And also I want to be reasonable, sustainable, so especially when we write software and it will be in the cloud, it will use some servers, right? So at the end it might not be the best case, but then on the other hand, I got here by train because it was reasonable, right? It's 6 hours for me to get here, maybe 7 because there was Zelensky in town and things were really tough to get out of Berlin, but I managed. And taking the airplane would have been, I wouldn't have gotten much, so it was reasonable. So that was kind of the thing. So getting back to the topic, we're going to talk about native monitoring, native tracing in this session. I have prepared a live demo. We're going to add OpenTelemetry live. I hope the demo gods are with me. I prayed a lot since I learned that from Marina. So yeah, so let's see how that will be for the agenda today. Great. Just skip the slides. Great idea. Literally. Oh yeah, there. Great. Thanks, Demogods. So I will just talk briefly about GraalVM. There was already a great session by Alina for GraalVM. You can also find it in the internet. So will be very briefly. I also will introduce OpenTelemetry because that's what we're going to use to get the tracing. I have my sample application with me. It's a Spring Boot app and a Quarkus app. It's a PostgreSQL database. We're going to monitor with application insights. And yeah, and we deploy it to Azure Container Apps in this example. And yeah, as I said, live coding. And I hope we have some time for Q&A. Otherwise, I will be around for the after party, so you can fetch me there. So. Yeah, great. So GraalVM, sure, for whatever reasons, not fixed. So the Graal native image ahead of time compiler for Java creates native executables, and they start much faster, and they use less CPU and memory. They are more secure because you just have a less surface to be attacked as well, and they have smaller disk size than traditional Java apps with the just-in-time compiler. And I think it's great that GraalVM releases whenever you have a new Java version. I think they started last year, so now you're always with the same speed. And also, as you maybe found on Twitter, he also put down again the instant startup is pretty cool, and I use it so whenever I containerize my app, I already started to try to be smaller, and then with the JVM, I always had to be a bit more reasonable about what the JVM needed as well. So I had to take care there was still enough CPU and load. By the way, if you're interested, Bruno Borges did a great session at Devox. You can find it online about that topic. So if you need the JVM and container, that would be it. But for native executables, I don't need to care. I can just go as small as possible, which is so great because I love event-driven architectures, and not in a way front end with click events, but more if you want to do event sourcing or you really want to scale down to 0. For instance, you can vote for this session, and this voting thing, it's only needed for this conference, and maybe for JFall as well. But the rest of the year, this app can be scaled down to 0. It doesn't need to be there. It doesn't have to consume disk space, time, memory, something. So you can scale down to 0, free the resources, and only get it up again when you need it. And that applies to websites as well, like my blog. So it will scale down to 0 if nobody watches. and it just goes back whenever someone watches it, so it's great. It works fine with high throughput, and I'm also using it for my distributed systems, so that's fine. I wouldn't use it. No. Something is still a bit off. Weird. Okay. Sorry. And we are always at the demo time, so maybe. Great. So I wouldn't use it if I need JVM capabilities. Like if I do JMS or something, and I need the power of the JVM for my business app, then obviously you can't use GraalVM or native images. But I mean, there are like plenty of reasons to use it. But I mean, I think I never needed the JVM capabilities so far. So there are lots of reasons to use it. So if I want to use GraalVM and I want to put it in production, I need proper monitoring, I need tracing, I want to have it, right? With the JVM world, we would use agents for it. And how it would look like is like here I deployed something. Let me make that bigger, just to show. So let's not take the last hour, but maybe 30 days. So I want to see like some key metrics. I want to see like HTTP calls, data in, data out, request number, the response time. Like I want system data, like as a start. And then I also want to see like, yeah, here's also more system data like CPU time, and then a bunch of others like average response time, and again, data in, data out, all of these I'm interested in. As someone, as a DevOps person, I should have bring some hats, like DevOps hat and then the Java hat again. But I also want to know like end-to-end tracing. So like here in my resource group, where I have my app deployed, in this case with app service, which is just somewhere where my Java apps runs at, right? And then I put there the application insights as well. It's like my monitoring system I'm using. And here I have the system metrics again, but what I also get is like, so it would be like the server requests. And then I can dive into the performance and then also see by request. Oh, the screen is very small. So I hope it's like visible. So here is basically a post request, and then you can see what post request was called, like /owner/ and then with the owner and then the ID. And we can even drill into more with that one. I like the samples, and then I can see it here. So I really get the end-to-end stack trace. And sometimes I really need that. So I want to see like which command got executed on my database. So if something happens and I need to investigate as a DevOps person, I can find out what happened. So and that's what I want with my native apps as well. So and as I said, we're going to do live coding. Yeah, and I would use like the agent for it, and in the JVM world, I would have done it. But here, as you can see, the issue got created in 2019, and they're doing something on it. I saw it again.
And your issue here as well, yeah.
Yeah, there's some tension, but it's still not there. It's still not there, so you can't do it like with GraalVM per se. But if you want, you can connect Alina, and they're working on it. But then my question would be like, with my DevOps hat, I would be like, why should they do it? Because what I have is a native image in the end, and when I do DevOps or Ops, I want to treat all the apps the same, right? So I'm responsible. My teams, they're all agile now. Every team can do whatever. So we have some teams, they do Go apps, and they are native executables in the end as well. So I would like to treat every app the same, and that's where, yeah. So I would have to at least treat all natives app the same, and that way I would have to look at like native services like CNCF projects, and that's where you can use OpenTelemetry. So OpenTelemetry is part of the CNCF, is like exactly for this. So it provides me, it merges open tracing and open census, and it provides me specifications for like and standardized APIs, and comes with conventions, and it comes also with the OTLP protocol. Is there with many languages, like most common ones, they all have SDK implementations. It's kind of easy to add to my code. We're going to do that in a minute. And so because what we currently have, maybe let's do that first. So we give it a little bit of time. Oops. Where's my edge? There you go. So here's the sample app. It's on GitHub. It's just Azure samples and then native telemetry. And I have a code space open. Code space is basically just VS Code running on someone else's server. So it can be a bit faster. So here's my app. I did infrastructure as code. So what works is like AZD auth login. For the infrastructure, I can do AZD provision. And I might give it a new JSpring logs, maybe. And then it initializes my bicep files. So here's like an infra folder. It's maybe a bit off topic, but here's like my infra folder where I specified everything I need for this app. Let's just select the subscription. Okay, great. And start the deployment. Nice. So, great, because what I currently have, I did that before. Should close the Chrome thing. Great. So I did that before, and what it gave me was, yeah. So here's my JSpring resource group. I also added the application insights. Here are my container apps. And what I can already do is like, here's my Spring app. It's just, yeah, and here's also the application URL. So it gives me a hello world Spring Boot, and I can do like something like /veggies, which would create or initialize my database, or yeah, gets my data from the database. And here you can see it's like a orange carrot, broccoli, cauliflower, escargot. Yeah, those ones were already added. And what I also can do is create a post request. And here the escargot I added. So this one could be like a JSpring escargot as well, if it doesn't crash. JSpring, please. Okay, cool.
Is that the response?
Yes, thanks. Great. So let's do that again. Should it work like this? Okay. Otherwise, you just send it again. Okay, and now I should get another one. Yeah. So here it is again, and also for the heroes, you can now see that that's the Quarkus app. Same thing. I can run it again, so then it creates another service and puts it into the database. And I know this because I coded the app, right? Well, together with my friends from Red Hat, we coded the app. Let's get rid of those. Great. So what I can already get from my container app, so from my system, are like metrics for this one. So I still have like CPU usage, network in, network out, and also it says it would have JVM metrics, but those are all like empty because there's no JVM, right? But here for the CPU usage, that's something we already have, so that's good. But then I want the tracing as well, and also logs. I can find the logs already, like here. That's the console log stream. So I can see here that, I also triggered an exception. Great, so here's my add veggie, and then also the get one was there. Oops, sorry. So these metrics I already have. And as I said, I also added the application insights. So let's see what this one gets. I want a nice application map and also see things around it, right? So let's hope. Okay, nothing, because, as I said, we don't have a Java agent. So there's nothing that sends the data now to my application insights. Even though I connected those, it's like, doesn't know what to do with that. So that's our exercise for now. We will go here in my code space. Oh, I thought that would have been done for now. But yeah, I think we can, yeah, let's push for it still. So for Quarkus, it's easy as counting to 2. For Spring, we have to do 3 steps. So we need to add the SDK for OpenTelemetry. So here, we have our Java apps. And then I need to add the OpenTelemetry SDK. And then the collector can be vendor agnostic, would receive the data, processes, and then export it in the way that the backend can understand it. For the translation or when it gets transferred, we're using the OTLP protocol. And in our case, we're using the exporter, which will then put it inside Azure Application Insights. This is super new, cool stuff, open source collaboration made by John Bisutti, my colleague, and also Bruno Baptista from Red Hat recently. So we just presented it, I think, a month ago at DevOps France. So let's do that. So here's again my map of what I want to know, what I want to have. I already have the Azure Container Apps with my veggie service, and then the superhero service. And what it does, when I create a new vegetable, it will send a post request to the superhero service, which will then generate a superhero out of it. And we're gonna add OpenTelemetry to get insights for this. Also I want to see the communication between my services and the databases, and I also want to see the service-to-service communication, because I want to see the full picture of my end-to-end thing, what it's doing. So let's start. Oh, it's so great. Okay, anyhow. So here's my Quarkus app. And again, I said, so here's how we do it. We deploy it as a container. You can see it's going to be pegged to native, and then it's just exposes things. For Spring, we did almost the same. So this one was written by Bruno. I did the Spring app. It was already reviewed by Sean from the GraalVM team, but he already said I could go even smaller. So anyhow, so I'm using here 17 maslib. Obviously, we could have used also newer versions, but then we would have had to add more into the meta-env file. So I haven't done it. Oh, yeah. OK, so and then I just, I only need Maven, so that's what I need. So I will just install my Maven, and then I run the Maven clean native compile with the native flag here. And then in my resulting image that's going to be deployed, I'm using the Alpine image. But yeah, it might have been even more secure if I would have started from scratch, but then I would have had to install other things. So let's stay reasonable, right? So I'm going with the Alpine image. I expose 8080. I copy the executable, and this one was always too fast to execute. And then, so I have this one, which is still a bit ugly. So if you have a better solution, shoot me a pull request. That would be great. So that's the current status here. I still hold that this one. OK. So for adding OpenTelemetry, as I said, for Quarkus is as easy as counting to 1, 2, 3. So I also have a cheat sheet. So here, we first have to open the POM.xml and and then add some dependencies, so like the SDK, as we discussed. So I put that one here. I hope it's big enough. So as I said, we need the exporter. Yeah, I need that one for to export the data to Azure Application Insights. And then I want to see also the JDBC connection, so I also add this one here. And then I need to configure things in my application properties file. So here the hotel properties. So first of all, I need to set the connection string with application insights, just a dummy, because in my bicep file, so with my infrastructure as code, I will overwrite this, because that's kind of something you want to keep secure. So I don't put that here, otherwise it might end up in my source code. So that's why it's just like a placeholder here. And then I set my console log format to have like the format that it's needed. And I also put like the JDBC telemetry for true. I can change it to false, but then I wouldn't see the JDBC data in my application insights, and I want that, so I put it here to true. So I think that's all I need to do for Quarkus. Everything else is already the same. Please be careful to have, so these ones are like, you can't rename those. So this one is set by the exporter, so you have to keep it that way. It's the same for the Spring variables, right? We already know that. It's always defaults who configure everything. So for Spring, we have to do the same things. So we first of all add dependencies into our pom.xml. So here's my Spring app, here's my pom.xml. And first, I need to add the dependency management. I think I put that here. And then also the, so and for Spring apps outside of Azure, I could use the, sure, that's big enough. Okay, so I could use like the OpenTelemetry Spring Boot starter one. It's currently an alpha version, but we started this one a bit earlier with our Spring Cloud, so we have something that is at least already in beta. So we have this one here. So and since I deploy that to the Microsoft Cloud, I will go over that one. So let's put it here as well. In my dependencies. Okay. So that works. Okay, and this one is also done. Great. Okay. Let's not do that now. And then for my application properties, I have to also like set the data source URL, and it's a bit funny because you have to add OTel between JDBC and PostgreSQL. So they might change it in the future, but currently that's how they programmed it. So here's my this one. Interesting. Okay. Nope. So here's my, yeah, that's application properties. Yeah, that should work. So here I have to like put the OTel in the middle of JDBC and PostgreSQL. I don't know why they do this. Again, this is just the dummy for local execution, and that's why I also have to do it in a second in my infrastructure as code files. So, and here I also have to set the driver class name to OpenTelemetry and then OpenTelemetry driver. So here I go with, yeah, also in the Spring Boot bicep. And then here I have to set OTel. Oh, okay, great. So that should be it. So now I can run azd app and it will deploy my apps towards the infrastructure we just generated before and that we waited for. To not let you wait too long, I did that already, so we can have a look. But we can also check then later if that's working, right? So, okay, here's my Spring Boot app. I think JSpringWorks was the one we just did. I could also wait. So here's this one, and I see the deployment actually shouldn't take too long. Or maybe. Yeah, but what I said, again, maybe let's recap very quickly. So it was really easy, right? So for Quarkus, we just had to add the dependencies to my pom.xml and then also like make it available in the properties file. Why is it working? So Quarkus already uses, I think it's micrometer, right, to get those tracing things. And so we already have the metrics and we just need to expose them. Then we use the OTel one and then it will put that to our application insights. So that's how we do it. And Spring Boot is kind of the same. We just add the SDK and then it retrieves the data already because the metrics are already there. It retrieves it also from the actuator pattern. So you already have like metrics, which are like craveable, and then it will be passed there. So otherwise, I have to log in with another account. But yeah, we can do this. I hope. Okay, great. So for people who have never seen Azure, that's how it looks like. Here's my application insights. And so here's my application map. Oh no, that was the other one. Damn it. So here's my native telemetry resource group, and here like my container apps environment and my veggie service again, and the Quarkus service, and also the application insights. And here's my application map. And here's nothing, because we haven't called this one in a while, right? And we do native apps, so I haven't used them, so they scale down to 0. So there's nothing. So let's just put that to like last 7 days. And then here I see like my veggie service. Okay. So let's see. This one's deployed yet. Okay. Things, and this one? No. Yeah. Great. It will be there in a second. I still have time, so don't worry. Let me go to... Sorry for this. I thought I have it handy, but for whatever reason I forgot where it is. So, yeah. Do we have questions? Help me out, help me out. You know, you're also here for me. It's already evening hours and I'm a morning person. So I'm like waking up at 6 and I'm like, you know, so yeah. So, do you have already questions? Who's using GraalVM already? Alina is using it, you are using it. Who's using it in production? How's the tracing working? Not implemented. Great. Brave. Brave. Give you that. That's interesting. Yeah. And who is like thinking about using GraalVM native images? Great. So maybe it's interesting. So what I did to like move my Spring app to GraalVM to make it like that I was able to build it with GraalVM, because for Spring, I mean, Quarkus, it's kind of built native, so it's super easy. I think you don't have to do much. It even comes with the native Docker container. For Spring, I had to do a little bit of things. So, for instance, like the easy way, I have a Windows machine at home, a Mac on the road. That's also a reason why I use code spaces. So I have Ubuntu under hood, or I go with containers. Then I can also switch, because GraalVM is like native compiled. So it would be another native image on Windows, then on Mac, then on Ubuntu. So that's always a bit difficult. But since we have tools like code spaces, and we might deploy with CI/CD anyhow, so we have always Ubuntu runners under the hood if it's the GitLab runners or the GitHub runners. We use the same machines. So that's not really an issue for production. When I develop my code, I stay with my IDE. Still, I would just run it just like normal. The whole native story only starts when I deploy it, right? So don't worry about the build time being a bit longer, even though they improved a lot recently. But still, it's longer than like the JVM building images. So don't stress too much. And what I had to do for my Spring app was, so first of all, to deploy it, I had to like use the GraalVM base image instead of, a Java JVM base image. It's not too tough. You just find the one that's working. As I said, they always release at the same time, so that's easy. And then in your Maven command, you can just add the native one. And then what it does, if you lose some libraries that can't be used in native just like this, it will come up with some errors. And then you just have to add them in the meta-inf one. So there is like a meta-inf native image properties file, and then you can just add args. And when I used the newer GraalVM version, and this list was like this long, and my co-presenters at DevOps France, they didn't like that one. And they saw we could use an older version, and then this one would be smaller. And right. You can also put the arg in your POM XML, but especially when this one gets longer, then it's getting not that pretty. And at least for us, we also had to put when we used the muscle lib, we also had to put an JVM arg, which sounds a bit off, but we had to set this one to make it run, because otherwise for Azure, it would check a security flag and be like, it would fail because of security reasons, because it couldn't detect JVM. It's like, well, there's no JVM, so please calm down. So it's a bit weird, but you can just get rid of it when you just set the security flag, which is fine because there is no JVM. So it doesn't have to check if the JVM is up to date or anything, because there is none. So I think that was almost it. Didn't have to do much else. So this one looks great. We already have the application insights pre-deployed, and also the container environment, and now we're just generating the resources. That's great. I can also run this one locally. I built the Docker Compose file for it. Works fine as well. So let's see how it looks like. So here's my Spring ROPS resource group still. And yeah, and I also need the new images. So here's my Spring apps. So here's my application URL, so we can generate some traffic. That would be cool. If it's there already. Should be soon.
Cold start.
Yeah, question.
Cold start.
Cold start. I mean, yeah, it's packaging my app and then deploys it to container apps. Don't know, it takes a bit. I think it's always like, if you try it at home, it's like in 2 minutes, and if you're on stage, it's like, no. You have time, right? So here's my container app again. I mean, we can.
Does all adding those dependencies do something to the size, a lot to the size and to the startup time?
A bit, obviously.
A bit, but what's a bit? It's because Quarkus says milliseconds startup.
Yeah.
Is it 100 mils extra or 1 mil extra?
Oh, then we can find out. We we deployed it without it, right? So I can check. So I can go on the first one we deployed, and then it should be in the, didn't it say in the console how long it take to start? One. It said. So it said started in 0.089 seconds, right? And then the new one, once it's there, we can see if it's like longer startup time. Because it would be the same machine under the hood, just different image, adding OTL. Yeah. And by the way, I first built my Spring sample with Spring JDBC because I thought that would be the new cool kid what the Spring people are doing. And then we put it into native, and it was starting in 52 milliseconds. I was like so impressed. And the Quarkus guy, I mean, if you compare this one to like 0.089 seconds, much longer, I think it's like 200 milliseconds almost, or 180. And he was like, yo, we need to compare apples to apples. And now we added Hibernate to the Spring app. I'm not sure how much sense that makes, but you know, I'm like a performance-interested person. I was in the tracking team before, so my world as a software engineer usually ended like with the cache layer when I was deep into Java. I'm not the expert in this, so I was like, okay, fine, let's add Hibernate. And now the Spring app takes like 250 milliseconds to start, just by adding Hibernate. Not sure if that's better for him with his Hibernate fanboy, but I told him, like, if we keep it like this, I will say it in every conference. So, okay, let's see. Let's see. So now we should have a Spring Walks. See if the Quarkus app is there already, and then we could see. So that's the container apps. Here's my resource group. And here's the container app for Quarkus. It's running. Here's my console log screen. So, and this one starts in, oh, it's a bit slowly, right? So it was 0.089, and now it's 0.112. I mean, we are opening another connection to the application insights. I think it hasn't done it before, because Quarkus, I think, is also smart enough to detect which things are used and which are not used, so it wasn't doing that. So I think it's reasonable for what we get in exchange, if we get it today. So let's see, we have our resource group, and here's my Spring Boot app. So let's put some traffic on it so we can see things. Maybe. Yay, here's my hello world. Great. So I can check the veggies. Great. And as this one is new, published, we don't have much here. So I can go to my Postgres and change the URL to the new one. Need the extra veggies and add another one. Great. I can also get all veggies, just to add a little bit more traffic, right? Send. And I can also go with the Quarkus app, because they are so funny. They created just something just for me, and I also wanted to show it to you. So here we need the Quarkus URL as well. So let's put that to the PostgreSQL. So it has a I want a raise endpoint. And it gives me an issue. Turn a server error. Not sure. Let's see later what that means. Because it's kind of cool in the perspective of security, right? So I don't see what happened. It's just me nagging my manager. I want a raise, right? So, oh yeah, here it is. Here it was. And it just gives me an error ID and nothing more. So I have an empty stack. It's like, yeah, so let's see. So here I'm in my resource group. So now both apps are there. And here's my application map. And here's what I see now. So I have my Quarkus app. I also have my Spring app. It's currently just one instance. If you would hit more traffic on it, it should also scale and give me more and more and more. And now I can also look into like the transactions. So here's the call I did. And now I can investigate into performance even more, see all the dependencies, and also see like the post request and get like all the insights. So here I'm seeing what happens, right? So it's the Spring app, which calls the Quarkus app as well, and which will then do a PostgreSQL insert, which is like cool. So I see the service-to-service communication here, and also see that even see the insert statement that was happening. Yep. So I think that's it. So yeah. Okay. So that's one.
Yeah.
Yes?
How much or
How much what?
Overhead added by using OpenTelemetry.
You mean like performance time?
Yeah.
I mean, for the start, we saw it was a bit, right? But I was also opening the connection. And I mean, before that, I wasn't able to see it, right? I wasn't able to know how long the request would take. So now I know the data. So I mean,
So maybe you have some.
so I can't say.
Maybe you had some performance tests that open.
Yeah, I mean, I could, you know, I could actually, since you're mentioning, you know, the post request was already working, right? I was already putting the other one in the new database, so I could, you know, use the timer and then find out how long it takes and then calculate the, yeah, that's true. I should maybe do that soon. So here's again my transaction search, and I want to know what happens with my race, right? So let's see. Oh, it doesn't have the arrow. That's bad. So let's see. So I have here my post. Okay, that's already there. Maybe it just takes a bit. Interesting. Let's ask for a raise again, just in case. Needs it one more time. And be sure I have the correct Quarkus app. So we are in the Spring Vox one. Here's my Quarkus app. Because I can drill down to the logs, maybe there's something with my race visible, right? So let's see it. Oh yeah, there's an error. There's something. Oh, okay, this is a generator. Nice, thanks guys. There was yeah, that was nice, right? Isn't it fun working in this tech industry? So
Great colleagues.
yeah, and partners. But I also want to have it in my application insights, right? I don't want to merge around. So by the way, I have the Spring logs in my application insights already. For Quarkus, they're working on it. So whenever I ask him, he's working on it. So it should be there very soon. Then just my error just for me will be there as well. Currently, I have to do this trick to get it. Oh, no. So here's again. Oh, yeah. So it was in the app, right? So it should be here. So there is the exception. Great. Where is it? There. There is my exception just for me. And what it also gives me is the call stack. So, and I wasn't able to see it in my browser, right? Everything was empty, Postman didn't show it. So like from a security point of view, it's also super great. So I have it when I need it. As a DevOps person, I can find it. But you know, from the outside perspective, people can't use it because what happened like previously was those were also available for the outside world, and then they could see if there was like something that didn't got updated in time, some dependencies, and then they, you know, it's easy to then steal data with log4 shell or log4j error and those things. You know, that's how they expose it. And doing it like this, it secures us from that.
Just by default.
That's the default behavior. Yes. Yes. I'm not sure. Yeah, you can specify, right? Remember, we specified in the application properties thing there we said, at least for the Quarkus app. But I'm not sure if you can, I'm not sure if they allow you to do it differently. So we set the JDBC metrics. Yeah, I don't think they allow you to do that. Maybe if you find out how to set a variable, you could change that. But I'm not sure if you should because, yeah. It is already very good. So what I still miss, as I said, I'm missing like in my transaction search, like or for the Spring app, I can also find like the logs. That's missing for my Quarkus apps. But I like that I see all the dependencies and that I can follow like the whole post request end-to-end with service-to-service communication and also the next step to the database. So for me, that totally solves the issue. Because I had like a lot of customers in Microsoft and they're like, yeah, sure, we can go native apps. We are also like big companies, we should care for the environment, and also everyone cares for security, right? So let's limit the surface, let's go native. And then they're like, yeah, but if we can't monitor it, if we can't do the tracing properly, that's not for us. And they solved it. So I'm like super excited about this, and I'm super welcoming you to also try it out. It's working fine. We are like in beta versions. I don't have a date for GA yet, but it's ready to use it. So go ahead, use GraalVM in production. And thanks for having me, and I'm around for more questions because we're already 2 minutes over time. Thanks for staying with me, even though the party already started.